Hello, good morning everyone again. My name is Talia Brun and I work for CINEA. CINEA is the Climate, Infrastructure and Environment Executive Agency. As you know, the agency supports the Commission in implementing many of the programs related to the Green Deal. And I work specifically in the unit that manages the LIFE Clean Energy Transition Program and also the legacy of the Horizon 2020 Energy Efficiency Program. And today we're going to be presenting a project that was funded under Horizon 2020 Energy Efficiency upstairs. I've been following this project for 3 years now, and I'm very happy that it's being presented here. I think there is, it's a very very timely presentation. When the project started, it was not in the radar of many member states to set up one-stop shops for energy communities, and that's what the project has piloted in 5 different regions. But today it's really very much in the radar of many local authorities, regional authorities, and so I think that the experience that these 5 pilots have gathered is very valuable. And today we're going to hear about 2 of them. We have 1 hour, so we're going to try to limit it to 2. We're going to hear about the experience of Upper Austria and also of the metropolitan area of Barcelona that have been very successful in this implementation of this one-stop shops. And with that, I'm going to pass the floor to our speakers. To start with the Upper Austrian experience, we have Christiane Egger. She's the Deputy General Manager of the Upper Austria Energy Agency, and she's also, among many other things, the Vice President of the Climate Neutrality in FEDEREN, that, as you know, is the European Network of Regional Energy and Environmental Agencies. So I leave you with Christiane. The floor is yours. Thanks.
Yeah, good morning or good afternoon, not sure, 12 o'clock. So I think I will stand here. So it's my pleasure to start this workshop presenting you our experience, our journey in establishing and running a one-stop shop for renewable energy communities. It was done in the context of the Upstairs project. Talia already introduced it quickly. Basically, it is helping accelerating the creation of renewable energy communities and other forms of collective action and supporting citizens and municipalities in becoming prosumers. 5 one-stop shops were set up and they have been running. You can find more information on our website. So I will quickly jump into introducing my own organization. So I'm from the region of Upper Austria, in case, so it's this little white thing here, between Vienna and Salzburg. If you have ever been to Austria, normally this explanation works well. Many people are nodding. So we are a very industrialized region, and at the same time also a very rural one. That doesn't actually exclude each other. It's a population of 1.5 million people. Our organization, the Regional Energy Agency, was established in 1991. Yes, that concept existed even then. And our work is only about one single thing. It's the energy transition to achieve climate neutrality. That's a big enough deal, I would say, so we leave the other subjects to other people. We provide a range of services for households, for companies, for the public sector. These include, for example, energy advice. So if you lived in my region, you wanted to renovate your house, you can call us and we send for free an energy advisor to your home to help you with your investment and decision-making process. We run funding programs for the region, to run a business network, do training, do research, many other things. The region has started its journey towards renewables quite a long time ago. So today, as an industrial region, we are at a third of primary energy, and our region has a big steelwork, has lots of chemical industry. Nevertheless, a third is from renewables. Electricity production is 84, that's mostly hydro. But most interesting, not the subject of today's presentation, but if you're interested, our space heating is covered to 61% from clean energy sources. And even in manufacturing, there's 43%. Why is then the average 33? Because mobility isn't on the screen, because there the percentage doesn't look that wonderful yet. Now, we have decided to focus our OSS strictly on the energy communities that were made possible by the then new RED II, so the Article 21-22. So to share electricity without the involvement of an electricity retailer. That's the core of the concept. And in order to understand why this is quite revolutionary, here's just a very simplified scheme. So in the old times, you had the utility. People who still say utility have missed the last 30 years, because that's when the market liberalization started. And now we have liberalized generation. So you can be an electricity generator. You have obviously liberalized electricity retailing. You should have a choice of different electricity retailers. But in between the transmission and distribution, these are so-called natural monopolies. So, because you don't want to have two different electricity grids in one region, that would be a waste of money. Nevertheless, people sometimes wish they could. And the new thing here is that, unfortunately, this doesn't work on a screen. With this new scheme, it means that suddenly the consumers can exchange electricity without the involvement of the retailer. Of course, they need the grid. They need the DSO, because the electricity actually needs to flow. But that's the fundamental difference in this new concept, which is quite powerful, but is also quite complicated. So, as I said, renewable energy communities, RECs, as we call them for short, allow you to exchange electricity within geographic proximity, and the national legislations define geographic proximity in a different way. I will show you in a slide how my country does that. That's a very critical point, because that definition defines how big the REC can be. It has to have, and that's a very important part for us, it's not a new business alone. So the environmental, economic, social, community benefits must be larger. Obviously, it also has to make economic sense in one way or the other. So that's one of the challenging things over time, and we are not sure where this journey is going to lead us, but we quite insist on that, because otherwise you can be an electricity retailer. You can get a license, and you don't need RECs for that. And it's not a shortcut to become an electricity retailer. However, it's a complicated thing. So I always say at the beginning of our training courses, if you look for a quick solution, this is the moment to leave the training course, because that's not what a REC is. It may become that in the next years, and we already have gone a long way in the last 3 years, especially when it comes to small ones. This is already relatively simple, but once it gets a little bit larger, you do have a number of things to solve. So you need support, which is good, because then we as an energy agency are needed, which is also not bad, I would say. Now, just a quick scheme. In Austria, we define the proximity in the way that they are the same energy consumers between the local or the regional substation. So I know some other member states do it as well, others do it in a different way. But that, of course, means people need to understand what is a substation. Most people, even the mayors, they say, what? Oh, yeah, we know this is this trafo, as we call it. So this is the first learning curve. What is this? And why does it count? And then you can have in the same area members. Here's the example with PV, because most of our RECs are PV-based, but of course, we also have others now. We have one with wind, we have one with hydro, and different forms will come in the next years. But PV happens to be the hot thing right now, so this is what is happening. Now, as I said, it's a complex instrument. It's great, but it's not, you know, easy. So we were lucky to have this project when it was clear the legislation is about to come. So I used the boring lockdown to prepare the one-stop shop. It was my, you know, little beacon of light sitting alone. You know, we all remember this time. And when the Austrian Parliament in 2021, for once we were fast, adopted this legal framework, the OSS was launched on the same day. So that was, we had good luck, we had this project at this moment. That's how it was. So we are quite well equipped to run an OSS. We have an existing OSS for building renovation and one for energy performance contracting. And we have a range of services that also equip us well on a technical, organizational, structural level to do this kind of work. Yeah, what is, and I will keep insisting on this, if you are supporting RECs or building renovation, by the way, you need to understand quite a lot of different things: technical, regulatory, financial, organization. All this is not rocket science, but still you need to be able to answer questions on these, otherwise the OSS will not be very successful, or worst, you say something which is wrong. So again, not advisable, especially if you're a public organization. Now, that's why a lot of effort went into the preparation. So a key part was the internal upskilling. I mean, we are all very experienced energy experts, but nevertheless, RECs is a different kind of an animal. So we had a really strong learning curve on how this is, also the regulatory framework was emerging with our knowledge. So we followed very closely. As Austria is a federal country, we have also a good access to national policy making because it's a joint effort in many things. Especially the market regulator was a very good and effective partner whom we worked with a lot. And still today, I have to tell you, we get questions where we all say, oh, okay, and then we find the answer. This is, so even after 3 years, but that keeps it interesting and keeps it alive. And of course, as the market develops or the more complex and new instruments come up. So at the beginning, the questions were simple, and there are still plenty of simple questions, don't get me wrong. So we developed an internal body of information that we didn't publish yet until we were really sure. And then, of course, you need some tools, and quite critical for us were our test customers. So pioneer municipalities whom we know, who are these first adopters. With them we discussed, also with pioneers in the PV scenery, said, could this work? So we had quite some workshops and interaction just to get a grasp where this instrument could fit in our context. Yeah, and then we launched it and did the service rollout. Now, our offer is, as I said, we advise and support on regulatory, so I don't like to call it legal because that's a different thing, technical, financial, and organizational aspects of developing and operating a renewable energy community. So I've listed here some of the most frequent questions. So on the framework, geographic boundaries, that's quite easy to answer nowadays. Which legal form in Austria? RECs need their own legal entity. This is fairly simple. For the small one, you found an association that takes you download statutes, pay 40 euros for the register of associations, and you are in. So that's a fairly easy. Larger ones are cooperatives. What is the REC allowed to do and what not? That is, of course, quite important. And who can be a member and how many can be a member, things like that. Funding questions, tax questions. This is one question we stay away from because in Austria, tax question really depends on who asks. So if you are a private person below a certain threshold, above a certain threshold, we would give wrong information, and I think that's also important to say. There are some issues which need to be carried. That doesn't mean we don't point towards experienced tax advisors, but you need to understand the specific situation of this company, person, municipality to answer this. Then technical and organizational, especially all this grid interaction. Again, we are now in a fairly streamlined process, but boy, that took a long time to get the DSO to, have the process ready. And okay, we are there now. And load optimization. So many people, for example, in the courses, they are mayors, and they have never, the concept of load curves is new to them, because it hasn't arrived in their reality. But the good thing is, once you've seen the curve, you understand. I said, that's why if you look at the curve, you see it doesn't make sense to have only private homes with PV, because they will all have a lot of PV at the same time and no electricity consumption at the same time. So think of someone in your municipality who would be the opposite, and who needs a lot of electricity at lunchtime and during summer. And immediately we'll come up with answers. Yeah, there's this company, there's this large farmer, there's this yet consumer. So that's the good news. This is relatively easy, the basic principle to explain. And of course, the complexity remains. Yeah, so the key advice groups are municipalities, citizens, and SMEs, either as participants or as service providers. Now, here is what we did. So at the core is the last line. We held 1,070, I did the count last week, individual advice sessions. So these were not just short telephone, but people whom we supported in the last 3 years in their journey. Not, of course, they were all supported in a comprehensive manner, but there was a longer or several contacts. And a key element were also the information events, because if people have been an event, they don't ask all the same basic questions. Who can participate, what, because they've heard it in the training course. So we alone did 18 events that were dedicated only to RECs, and we were invited to other events where we also gave significant information. Now, where did that lead us? So today, there are over 170 RECs established in our region of 1.5 million. So you can multiply this by the population of your respective region, and then I think whether it's little or much. We think we are quite happy, frankly, with the development. The even better news is we just got these data last week from the regulator. They have over 3,000 members. So that means something is happening because it's a powerful concept and it has been supported. The OSS will also continue beyond the project, that I'm also happy to share. Now I will end with some lessons. It's a continuous learning journey because, as I said, as RECs evolve, new questions come up. There are always changes in regulation. The DSOs do present something new. So you need really to be up to date. Electricity markets change. We have the new big electricity law coming up, which will also have implications. So, but I don't want to say this is a complex thing. If you have a couple of good experts, they can manage this. I mean, it's not, again, all this is not rocket science, but it takes just some people, skilled energy people who have some time to dedicate to this subject. The clients nowadays, they don't ask the detail anymore so often, but they ask something, you know, very detailed. And we saw internally at our team meetings every week, someone, not every week, but most weeks, someone reports on a new REC question, and then we say, this is the answer we got from the ministry, from the regulator, or from the tax person. So this continues to be a journey. What is also clear, if you want to offer an OSS, any OSS, no promotion, no demand. Never ever think any kind of service offer is self-running. If you don't build in time and money, again, we're not talking about millions, but resources to keep. When you open it, yes, there will be media coverage and there will be an interest. But what about 3 months, 6 months, 12 months later? So this needs to be built into the OSS. Either it's part of the general communication, for example, as us as an energy agency. So we don't have a big budget or anything for it. But if we do an event, then we also announce the service and we are listed wherever, etc. Commercial independence. This is quite important to us. So it's not linked as all our advice to the sales of a product or service. We believe that people would not believe this. And actually people come to us and ask us what commercial operators are saying, whether this is true or not. Often it's true. We say, yes, this is the right answer. Good, go ahead. Or we say, well, you know, there's more aspects than what this person said, etc. So the kind of polite way a public organization has to saying this is rubbish. Yeah, so we know this from our other field. It's not different. It's a longer term thing. So don't start an OSS for a year. This is not worth the pain and the trouble. Until you are set up, you have the knowledge. If you're good, you do it in, 9 months, let's say. And then until you're known, until this all is running, 1.5 years are gone. And then if you only have 3 years, for example, so that's not worth your time. So it should be started from the beginning with at least an idea of a multi-annual perspective. What did we learn on RECs? Well, we see three main types, I would say, emerging, yes. The family neighborhood RECs. So my brother lives in the same street than my PV is larger, so this kind of family or neighbor. They're good, they're worthwhile, and they allow people to invest in more PV. That's a big driver. And often in these RECs, the electricity is not paid by the others, but with some family. I support my children, my father. He will clean the snow, these kind of family neighborhood deals, if you want. Then we have municipality-driven RECs. And a driver here is that the municipalities have, let's say, 10 buildings, very typical. And on most of these buildings, they have a PV. But in summer, of course, they cannot use the PV from the school in the swimming pool because the electricity retailer is in between. So, but of course, a municipality alone is not a community. That's one of the most frequent questions. Can I make RECs with my own buildings? We say, well, one is not a community. You need at least a second one. And that can be, for a starter, another public, semi-public. They are a little bit careful of letting in citizens right from the beginning. And I think this is a good approach. To say, the moment when we understand how this all works, we go the next step. And the third is we see that now commercial operators coming in, starting RECs, and inviting people to join. There are pros and cons, I would say. Pros because it's very low threshold. Often they have a well-developed app. So, of course, the other thing is better, clearly. But it's quite difficult. Once the REC has a certain size, they need a service provider. It's not like the poor guy in the municipality can, do this on top of everything else. So, and once you need service provider, it's clear the service provider must earn money because it's a company, otherwise it's dead. So we don't know yet where this journey will lead us. We keep an eye on it, but it will really depend who the economic operators are. That's my personal opinion. If these are sound, good companies, willing and interested, I don't have a big issue. We have some municipalities that are testing those now, and so let's see where this third type will go. What is the key motivation? Most in my country, they want to build more PV. This is not only I want to make my roof full. This is what is really a strong driver. And if they can share it, they have an excuse to do it in a way. So that's quite a big driver. The economic benefits are not as big. You have to be very honest. In our country, you get the local energy community gets a significantly reduced grid tariff, and the regional one less. So that's justified because they use the grid less. But if you look at a private household, I mean, the economic benefits are. And so we always say it very clearly, if you just do it to save money, do something else. If you do it because you want to be part of the sharing economy, you want to have more PV, then this is the good reason. You think about your electric car, etc. Then, but just to save, you know, a couple of euro a year, at least in our economy, I don't think it would move people. Of course, it has to, as I said, it should not be economic nonsense. But that's a different thing. The frustration with the DSOs, I think many of you here in this room know what I'm talking about. He doesn't let me connect my PV, my fast charger, so that's a strong driver. And it's not the DSO, it's the energy companies, basically. And the energy crisis with the energy security also were another booster. So the need for support will continue. That is clear, because 107 is good, but it's not the end of the journey. I think new models will appear. I have to say the cooperation with the DSOs really improved. Now they have services, they have a good tool where you see who is behind the same substation. So these 2 years, there was a lot of pressure on them politically also, but that is really a lot better now. The large companies were very disappointed, not because they wanted to share electricity and PV with their staff. So that will change now with the next wave, the citizen energy communities, and RECs are here to stay. And I will close with an invitation. We run this International World Sustainable Energy Day, and in the context of this, there's a European Energy Efficiency Conference, early March next year in Wels, Upper Austria. So there I'm happy to tell you and show you more. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Christiane. Okay, so we saw what happened in Upper Austria. I think you saw the pros and cons, the difficulties as well, so thanks a lot for being so frank about those, Christiane. Now we move to a bit further south to Barcelona. Our original speaker was Marcel Camps from the Metropolitan Authority of Barcelona, who's sick and unfortunately couldn't join us, but Paco Jofrà from Ecosurveys, who has been supporting the metropolitan area in the implementation of this project, kindly accepted to take over. So I leave you with Paco, who will explain us the one-stop shop there.
So can you hear me? Yes. Thank you, Talia. So as Talia was mentioning, I come from Ecosurveys. We're a company based in Barcelona, and we're a consulting innovative association, non-profit, which is also important. And we have been hand in hand in this deployment strategy that the AMB has gone through, which the core is energy communities and one-stop shops. As Christiane was mentioning, it was 3 years ago. Not all of us were mentioning energy communities. It was in our heads, but it was still there, just making some noise, but we didn't really know what would be energy communities in the future. Now we know, and we have been through quite a difficult path as well in the Barcelona metropolitan area. Thanks to Christiane that she already went through the OSS explanation, I will try to go straight to our pilot, just trying to give a bit of an overview. I assume here everyone knows Barcelona, or almost everyone, but no one knows what the metropolitan area is. It's a super complex area. The region has 36 municipalities. You can see Barcelona in the reddish area, which is super dense, highly populated, extreme complexity, but the complexity added to the metropolitan area is the diversity in between the municipalities. So as I said, there are 36 municipalities. Here you can see a map of Catalonia. It's quite big, or we think it's quite big. There are 7.6 million inhabitants, and only in the metropolitan area we can already find 3.3. So just take a look at the tiny space we take in Catalonia. So we are quite dense. But at the same time, we have these light green municipalities that are less than 10,000 inhabitants. So try to build a strategy that is comprehensive enough so it addresses the Barcelona needs and it addresses the Vegas needs, which is 10,000 inhabitants. No one here knows where Vegas is, right? I'm pretty sure no. It sounds like Las Vegas, but it's only there. No one knows, not even in Barcelona, they know. So it's super important to take into account when developing a strategy the huge complexity and the diversity within the Barcelona metropolitan area. Just trying to go a bit, you all know it's a super municipality, so the aim is to provide optimal services, to make more efficient services, to be able to provide services that the municipalities on its own couldn't provide to its citizens. There are 6 huge fields in which the metropolitan area has a key role in urban planning and territory. Then transport and mobility, they have a key role in connecting all these tiny municipalities. Then we have environment and sustainability, where we find the energy transition, where Marcel is right now, not here. Then we have the housing, of course, with all the social housing. We have economic development and, of course, social cohesion. I was talking about the complexity. There are only 36 municipalities, that's already a lot, but it's a lot more complex than that. The governing body has not only these 36, but an extra 54 city councillors. So try to make an agreement and build the strategies in there. I wouldn't like to be in that room, but I don't know how, but we are building these new strategies. So just trying to go in depth in these energy community strategies, just to give you the overall key actions that have happened in the metropolitan area. These are big figures, just for you to prepare. There has been and will be more installed of 22 megawatt peak in public buildings. We are taking also advantage that we are a metropolitan area, so we have like huge rooftop availability far away from the city, and we are trying to connect this with the city. We have also launched 2 private contracts within the Upstairs project that will promote energy communities both to citizens and small, medium enterprises. Then there has been the pilot face-to-face one-stop shops implementation, of course, and one online that works as a back office. And then, as Christian was mentioning, if there's no, if you don't promote yourself, there won't be any demand. So the metropolitan area had to do quite an extensive survey, not a research, of course, but a survey, which was a public perception pool that then led to the developing of a communication campaign. In the previous presentations, there was also highlighted the need for training and capacity building, especially in public servants. So there has also been quite an extensive training that I will go through it. And then there's also an ongoing recruiting process to further expand the OSS. So just trying to go a bit through each of these key actions that the Barcelona, I will call it A and B, okay? It's easier for me. If not, I need to just say Barcelona metropolitan area each time. So this public perception pool, it was quite interesting. There were 1,200 phone interviews, so quite a lot. It was a lot of work. The first results that we had were regarding natural gas. Of course, we want to switch, electrificate, and so on, but we want to know what we have in there. So 80% of the homes have natural gas, but only 53% heated with natural gas. And the rest accounts, of course, that either they do not heat it, or they heat it with electricity and radiators in small spaces because they cannot afford the bills, or they heat it with pumps. Also, there could be some that just have gas cooking stoves, and they don't use the natural gas grid, which is already a good sign. We are on the way to electrification if they have stopped using it. Then we have quite a dramatic number, which is that there is between 18 and 23% of the households that they cannot keep an adequate temperature during winter and summer. So this is over the average national energy poverty rate. And here we would need to sum not only this, but people who are actually keeping warm their house or cold during summer, but that they cannot afford the bills, or it's a major part of their income. So that's also a part that needs to be taken into account when developing the energy community strategies, so we don't leave anyone behind, of course. Then the average value for the monthly electricity is 70 euros, which is also over the average. This is probably due to the metropolitan context. But then going into the PV, which was the thing that interested us most for the OSS setup, well, I would say it's good news and bad news. 10 years ago, we would be fighting for this number. Nowadays, we need to keep pushing it, but there are a little more than 60% of the population that is likely or very likely to install solar panels on the roof. And it hasn't happened. I don't know if you know the context of Barcelona, but it hasn't happened yet. So there's a lot of room for improvement there. And lots of potential members of energy communities, because we have tons of multifamily buildings where they have the rooftop ability, but they need to agree on it. So there's the potential there. Then we tried to identify what were the biggest issues for this PV installation. Of course, most of them were related to cost, but we also had followed by the trying to agree with your neighbors on, okay, we cannot agree even in repairing the elevator, how we're going to agree in investing 20,000 euros, 30,000 euros, 40,000 euros. So that's also we really need to take into account when designing the strategy. And there was also a lack of information, which, of course, because of the energy model that we have behind our backs, there has been there, at least in Spain and Catalonia, for quite a while. Nevertheless, even though people don't see agreeing with their neighbors, there's a great willingness in sharing the electricity. So we just need to make that happen because the willingness is already there, and we could tap the potential of multifamily buildings. Then there's also another thing that really interested us in this public perception pool, which is that, I will just read the phrase, because households without people over 65 and with children are most likely to install solar panels. No news for anyone, right? They can see ahead, they have a mortgage, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, but we believe energy communities can tap the potential of all the other citizens that are not really in the situation to invest these 5,000 euros. We think energy communities could be business models that are in a 2, 3, 4, 5-year basis, in rentals, on whatever, ESCO models, that could really make these other people, I don't know, older than 65 people, below 30, that could be interpolated to become members and active members of the energy transitions. So, if we don't go to citizens, they don't come to us, right? So we had to launch 2 private contracts to promote energy communities. No one really knew at that moment what energy communities were in the metropolitan area. They all knew they could share PV installations, but they didn't really know what energy communities were. So we launched 35 sessions that were addressed for citizens, and we had an assistance of 849 citizens. So that was quite a success. There is the interest in the metropolitan area, which was at that point already a good news. And there was just one special session that was held only for a super interested and motivated multifamily building. The same goes for small and medium enterprises. The metropolitan area is super complex. As I said, there are these residential zones, there are the industrial zones, and the industrial zones have, of course, the available rooftop. The public rooftop is already going to be occupied and used for public energy demand and consumption, but small and medium enterprises can have a huge potential. So we wanted to really go to them, tell them the potential in energy communities, on collaborating with the citizens, on shared self-consumption. And here we also had 2 local associations that were super interested in the river part of the metropolitan area. So in the previous session, we were talking about capacity building. I will be honest, it was a mess, because it's super difficult to go to public servants and say, yes, you will be the one that will give advice in regulatory framework, technical, social, dynamization, communication skills. They were quite overwhelmed, you know. We, of course, had the engineering teams that were, yeah, I know a lot about PV, but that was not enough. We had to train and and promote this capacity building within the public servants in the metropolitan area. It was quite a success. We had to scale up our training expectations from the project. So we did a 20-hour self-learning course. It was a mix. I would say it was the best because we did online, we did visits, we did self-learning units. So it was quite a success. At the end, we held 2 editions because the first one was a success and it was completely overbooked, and we had 90 people trained in it. In here, I would say that it was super important that we got all kinds of requests, from engineering teams to social housing to social affairs. Everyone was in there. So we had to give a quite comprehensive training. It was quite a challenge, but it looked like it really worked, and these people are now trained to be part of the OSSs that will be deployed in the metropolitan area. Talking about the OSSs that have been deployed and that will be deployed in the metropolitan area, there's this communication campaign I was telling that will be launched. It was supposed to be launched in September, but the election cycles kind of messed everything up. So hopefully by the end of the year or beginning of next year, we will hope this will be quite a bump for the OSSs in the metropolitan area. But the important thing here is that we build a brand that covers everything, following the same logic as the super municipality. So it's an OSS that will be online, so it will be able to create resources, create tools, make everything more efficient to all the tiny municipalities, OSSs that won't be able to do it. They wouldn't be able to do it by themselves. Right now, there are 5 in-person OSSs and this online one, and the aim is to have 25 one-stop shops at the end. Here, trying to go a bit more in depth in our experience, what has been happening in the last years or months in the metropolitan area. Regarding the communication campaign, first of all, I want to say that there will be a mailing of 24,000 residences. So we need to be ready for the answer. So that's why we have been creating this structure. I truly hope everyone answers, but we are also very afraid that everyone answers that call. Okay? Here we have right now in the centralized OSS 3 public workers, there will be 4, an extra one in 2024. And the important part here is that this one will also work as an itinerant OSS, as an itinerant one-stop shops. So all these small municipalities that they couldn't afford within their teams to have extra people or similar, this guy here, this person here will go to all these municipalities and provide that advice they need in their one-stop shops. Just trying to go a bit over the service, we advise on anything. If people come talking about house renovation or PV or I don't know, auditing, bill optimization, energy communities, dynamization, legal, on everything, okay? Most of them have been related to energy savings though. So there's 15 minutes allocated to each request. And then if they ask for it, we create a report that takes us 30 minutes, which just evaluates the PV potential on their multifamily rooftops or sometimes also in single family buildings. Also, another important thing here that if any public authority wants to deploy an OSS, they will face this. Everyone comes with the same question. Who should I hire? Who should I go with? What engineering company? I got 3 quotes. Of course, as a public authority, you can't go for A, B, or C. We all know that. But what we have created in the A and B is a checklist of good practices and also an agreement with the Federation of Engineering Companies, which lets us give, you in your municipality, you have these 5 engineering companies, you can ask for a quote, and then we teach them on how to read those quotes. So they have this extra help, but we don't give them a certain name. You will face this for sure when deploying an OSS. It's quite a mess because everyone wants to have this answer. So just trying to quickly go through the KPIs. I believe I only have 1 minute left. There have been 200 users up to date. They are all quite happy, so we are happy about it. And most of them were individuals. But there were also some small and medium enterprises, like I don't know, in the neighborhoods, which were quite interested. Here, the type of contact. Being honest, we were hoping. Here we missed this. There's a 30% percentage that comes from multifamily buildings. The rest comes from individual buildings, single-family buildings. We're hoping to scale that up with the communication campaign because those are the families or the citizens that we really want to interpellate in creating energy communities because they have all the potential. Here also, quickly going through how we have done it. Most of the energy advice was given face-to-face. There were over 100 of them, but our recommendation is to open as many channels as possible. WhatsApp, Telegram, I don't know, phone calls, video calls, everything. Open everything. Because people just want to do it quickly. If they send you, we had 14 WhatsApps only, But it was easy to set up. They just send you a WhatsApp, you answer them, okay? And how we got them to contact us, most of them were via call or the city hall, which is still the main point of reference for citizens. Just finishing, going again through the main KPIs of the Taulada OSS, which is the AMB's OSS strategy. There has been these 200 users from 15th of March to September, so it's, we are happy with those numbers, and they will get bigger and bigger. There have been 90 implementation champions, which is these public servants that are trained to deliver this service. There have been over 1,000 citizens already reached in these informative sessions, and of course as well in the OSS service, and also very important, 450 small and medium enterprises reached during the campaign. Just last slide. Here we have the challenges and barriers that I'm pretty sure everyone here will face, let's be honest. On the legal aspect, I'm sad to say that we still have the lack of legislation and absence of transposition of the EU directive. Many EU countries are in the same situation. We almost had it, but because of the election cycle, it has been blocked a little bit more, but we're really looking forward. Then, also very important in Catalonia, what we have found is the difficulty in collaborating between public and private partnerships. Of course, we have the public sector law, which tries to avoid corruption and so on, but it also makes it very difficult for public authorities, as Christian was mentioning, to take part in energy communities. So here we are taking the approach of just helping promote energy communities, because it would be a mess to try to promote energy communities within the public authorities and the cooperatives. It would take just too long. Some of them are doing it, but they're, of course, the most motivated and the ones that have the most resources. Then on the technical part, everyone knows, I believe it's the same in all EU countries, we have the lack of the DSO assistance in shared self-consumption legalization. It is hell, it's a nightmare. I don't wish, not even to my worst enemy, to go through that. And again, we are also pushing it, so I hope we get to Upper Austria's context soon, because I was jealous to hear that the DSO is already taking a position and helping assist all this shared self-consumption legalization. And then, last but not least, super important, the social aspects. Because of the, I was mentioning before, because of the energy model that we have behind our backs, there's of course a lack of energy culture. No one knows about energy. We only have the most interested and most resourceful people there, the ones that have the privilege to have the knowledge. So there's a great task in training all these citizens or disseminating a new energy culture. There's the complexity, of course, on the second and third point of the metropolitan area itself, which is a highly dense populated area. And with this, I mean, there's really not that much social cohesion. When we talk about rural, there's something going on, associations with the school, whatever it is, people are, there is cohesion. In the metropolitan area, we see people are having fights over, as I said, the elevator or the dog poo. So it is quite a challenge to really bring together these neighbors. And third is the multifamily building versus the single family building. It's quite complex to build a strategy that aims at those two and interpolates them at the same time. The last one I would say is that due to the first one, there's of course a lack of trust on the energy sector. When you give a speech in Catalonia, or I guess in all Spain, you say energy and people look away, you know? So it's quite important that we start promoting this energy culture and empower citizens in being part of the energy transition. We are also happy as CHRISTIANE to say that there will be a follow-up of this. So we are now participating in another project, both EcoSurveys and AMB, which will be the co-managed project. That the idea is to digitalize all these services so we can create a co-managed open platform that we have called, and it will be open to other municipalities as well. Thank you very much, and I will be happy to answer your questions.
Thanks a lot, Paco. So we are running a little bit late, but I think we can still take a couple of questions from the room if there are any. Lucia.
Okay, hi. My name is Lucia Rakotovic. I come from Tinki. I'm here representing citizen-led innovation, but also other projects that we do with energy communities. One of the aspects that I want to ask both of you, but also Upstairs project, because I know it's been running for some time and maybe there is some examples of that. What we see issued the most with energy communities is the financing, and is the financing forum, yeah? And the fact that banks see financing within energy communities is a risk. They don't know how to shape it. And then the idea that came through some of the projects that we were doing is having one-stop shops as de-risking elements. So helping provide, let's say, guarantees for energy communities so that their projects or investments are de-risked. Do you know of any one-stop shops or organizations that help energy communities in this way? Or maybe not energy communities, but let's say activities of citizens, yeah?
Will you collect some questions?
Okay, let's take one more.
Right.
Are there any other questions in the way you can pass the mic? Back there, thanks.
Thanks. Good afternoon. I would just like to have a question on the on Christiane. How many people are?
Tell us your name.
Sorry, my name is Václav. I'm from Czech Republic, 7D Energy Efficiency Center. I'm actually thinking about launching a one-stop shop linked to CCAP. So I'm coming more from the municipal side of things, but your experiences both from Barcelona, from Upper Austria are, well, super helpful, I would say. And I wanted to ask you how many persons are involved in the Austrian agency, because there were some numbers from Barcelona, like 5 or 3 and 4 person, but then 90 well trained officials. So maybe yeah, thanks.
Let's take a third one if there's any.
There was one in the first row.
Here in the front, and then we will answer those because I don't think we'll have the time to go.
So my name is Louise White. I'm the coordinator of the Elena facility in the EIB. It's a grant program for energy efficiency preparation, but I used to work in a TSO. So, so I just have a more on a practical basis to understand. If I was a homeowner and I'm part of an energy community, is there now? I think in Austria you were talking about the better collaboration with the DSO, because I know that's super complicated. Do you then have a framework that you would be able to guide me on how to manage that relationship, or do you take care of that for me? Like, is that one of the advantages of being a member? And then the second question is, if I was a homeowner and I managed to convince 20 of my neighbours to set one of these up, do we all have to install PV on our roofs? And then how does that legal structure look like? Do the 20 of us sign a contract? Should someone else be involved? Because just to know how we share that energy in sort of practical terms. Thank you.
You can start, yeah.
Okay, I'll start with the last question because it's the easiest one. So in terms of the legal framework, there is a standardized process now that the DSOs, the Austrian DSOs have agreed. So there is a joint database, it's called EDA portal. It's a daughter company of many of them, and you go through some steps of registering both the energy community and each of the participants on this portal. It's not, I mean, you have to know how to do it, but it's not rocket science. By now it's fairly automated, and by now it's also responsive. It was not like this in the first months. Yeah, it's a big achievement. However, we have to say it should have been a lot easier because most of the DSOs are owned by the public sector. So, okay. But we're there now because also, as they were owned by public sector, the political pressure on making, no need to further comment on this. So that doesn't mean it's without problems, but at least in our region, we are mostly there, with the exception that we have 3 larger and then 18 small to very small DSOs. So they are, they are more of a challenge, with 50 houses. However, for the large ones, we're there, and now we are even there since October, that we can do citizens' energy communities where you will need to be go between DSOs, because the previous ones were only in the area of one DSO. So the second is, so let's say you 6 people here with me and with you, we found an energy community. We live behind the same substation. We have our house. So typical with this size, we would probably make an association. If all these other people would join, we would make a cooperative. likely, because in the association, one person, one vote, or one member, one vote. So this is good as long as we are all fairly on equal ground. But of course, if there are big investments to be done, it's better that those people who invest more have more to say. So then we would go for the cooperative. And then it could be that some of us have a PV and others don't, which is good. Because if we all have a PV and we are all professional people, not at home during the day, no one would want our beautiful PV electricity. So ideally, some are retired. Ideally, we have an SME or a public building that needs. And then over time, when you plan the REC, you would say, okay, these 3 people, they are in the process of planning a PV, so we know exactly what the yield. And 2 of you already have an electric car, which is actually at home during the day, because if the electric car is not at home, it cannot be charged with the green electricity. So we would set up a relatively simple system if it was just a couple of us. And if it's more complex and larger, when you have more different producers, larger PV, smaller PV, more consumers, of course, this is a more complex process. Okay, second, how many persons? Not so easy to answer because there are about 6 people in the agency that work on this subject. Of course, not only, which is also good because we do, as I stood also, we do other things, so we remain grounded. While the full-time equivalence now, in the setup phase it was more, is maybe half a person at the moment. But this is because we are an agency and supporting people. So people come for a normal energy advice, and then they also ask about the REC. Or they come for a training course on e-mobility in multifamily buildings like yesterday, and then always RECs come up. So, you know, this doesn't actually count as an advice. This is just part of what we do, like many other issues. So if you have the structure, the delivery structure, actually the person power you need when you're in place is not terribly big, except for remaining up to date. That's an investment you have to make. And the de-risking, I don't have anything smart to contribute on this. In Austria, at this moment, it's homeowners who typically can afford a PV, so there's no financial risk here. And once the municipality, also in our country, they cannot go bankrupt, so in the end the region has to pay, so hopefully they won't. So we don't have this issue at the moment.
Okay, so I will start the other way around. I will start with the financing. We are happy to say that we don't have that much of an issue regarding financing. We have had quite extensive funding schemes for energy communities, so the ones that were most solid already got the needed funding for it. But also there are 2 other strategies. Yeah, public funding, sorry. And then there are, of course, private funding coming from cooperatives, cooperative banking, which have created programs for energy communities. So far, there's not that much demand that we can say that funding is a risk right now in Catalonia. And some of the energy communities that are stepping up to solve the de-risking problem, they are trying to do power purchase agreements so they can get loans from the bank to pay for it, and so on and so on. So that would solve the financing issues in Catalonia and Spain as well. Regarding the DSO, our wish list, of course, would be to automatize the procedure. It is definitely not automatized. There's people that has been asked for documentation like 10 times at least, and that's, of course, a need. And of course, there are no penalties if something goes wrong. They need to be investigated, they need to be sued, and so on. So if there would be some kind of penalty scheme for not applying short self-consumption, we believe that would be a key phase or key process or key moment for energy communities to feel more safe and trust that bureaucratic procedure, which is right now quite sketchy. And regarding also how many persons, even though you asked Christiane, the 3-4 people are only involved in the AMB office. Then there are every OSS that has been set up have their own team. So those are those 3 that will be 4 are only supporting the AMB deployment. So the strategy itself and the itinerant OSS in the Barcelona metropolitan area.
Well, thanks a lot. It's time for lunch. We are the only limitation for you to have lunch. So thanks a lot. This was a great audience, great speakers. Thank you very much. If you want to discuss with them, it will be outside. I'm sorry that we couldn't take more questions, but I think the presentations were so interesting that I didn't want to cut them shorter.